Today, we're going to learn about the light, the truth, and the way with the true boxing stance and how to throw combinations off of it. Hey everyone, Coach Keith Keppner here, doing my boxing training review, this time from popular request, Marvin Cook. And Marvin Cook seems like a cool guy. He seems like he definitely, from my own judgment, knows some things about boxing. I will say, just starting off before we get into it, that he does have some interesting ways to present things and an interesting style of presenting the knowledge that he does have. I just said that in a way that made it sound like he doesn't have knowledge. He has knowledge. I'm not trying to say he doesn't. Anyway, the whole point of these videos, guys, is that I've done every Friday, is not meant out of disrespect, not meant out of criticism, but meant as a way for you, the viewer, and for this whole YouTube internet space to get just some different opinions, some different views, to maybe expand out context and understanding of how boxing truly is an art. It is not the sweet science. It, just like art, operates in the realm of physics, but just like art, there's many interpretations and many ways to do things versus science strives for a cause and effect, all right? And to not mistake correlation for causation, right? Okay, so anyway, without further ado, this video has like 65,000 views on it. And because we've all seen the video, I guess, on him talking about the true boxing stance and things like that, that would be a great one for me to do. But I want to do this one on combinations because I thought it'd be, again, an educational opportunity, right? We get to learn some things as we get entertained, all right? So without further ado, let's jump into it and rock and roll.
So if I throw the jab hook, I can come right off of throwing the jab hook, shift down, you come right back out.
So right off the rip, yeah, that was the jab hook, but do we really have to do that step?
So if I throw the jab hook, I can come right off of throwing the jab hook, shift down.
Jab, and then I'm going to have to step again. Oh goodness, jumped way too far back. Step again. So think about jab, step, after step, hook, then, he does his thing afterwards. So interesting. Versus one of the benefits, in my opinion, a lot of times of the jab hook is the bam bam type timing of it, where someone, let's say, tries to catch the jab, and while that hand is out there or while their hands are in front, you get that hook around, which could still happen in this situation, but be a little bit harder for it to happen. Anyway, let's keep on going into it. Let's not get hung up in the first 7 seconds.
You come right back out. Hi, it's Marvin.
What's up, Marvin?
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over combinations and how to formulate them from the true boxer stance. All right. So before we get started, I do want to ask you to hit that like button so we can bring you some more content just like this. All right.
I do want to ask you to hit that like button for me if you don't mind as well. Thank you. Maybe I can become as popular as Marvin Cook.
So let's go. Let's get started.
By the way, Marvin Cook seems like he seems like a cool guy. Nice guy. A nice guy to know. He doesn't seem like some personalities that you see sometimes on the internet.
All right. What we want to do today is we're going to go over some combinations because we've had questions about, how do I incorporate this stance? How does it work for combinations? How does it work? How do I run my offense? How do I set things up? So today we're going to tackle how to run combinations. And what we want you to recognize is how important the footwork is to combinations, and you'll see just how much it has been omitted when combinations are taught.
So right there he goes again with, you haven't been taught the right way, you need to learn the way that is the one, the true and the only way to boxing supremacy.
Okay, so the reason why I say that is that for the most part, let's say you're throwing a 1-2 combination or a 1-2-3 combination, even when people are working on the mitts, your coach or your mitt holder is standing in one spot and you are.
He has a great point about the standing one spot thing. So one of my pet peeves is if you're only doing mitts and, for instance, someone throws a 1-2-3 and they're in range already for the jab, so they just extend the arm for the jab. They don't do any type of step with it, the 2 and the 3. But like we know, realistically, a lot of times you're going to probably want to step with the 1, 2, and then sometimes you step with the 3 as well. I mean, I'm not saying always do it, but you want to be able to mix in all those variables. Thundering and lightning outside. You want to mix in all those variables when you're throwing your combinations, and that's one of the benefits of the mitts is that you can do that in a lot of different ways. So good point there already by Mr. Cook.
Targeting that one spot, and you're throwing it from the exact same position. All punches are coming from the exact same position. This is where we see a lot of the over-torquing of the upper body to generate that power.
Where else would power be generated? From stepping with it? Not really. You definitely do, in my opinion. To make maximum power, look at the biggest power punches in the history of boxing. They do rotate. At least something, right?
And that is why that has become so common and it's so accepted. And that's why when you see something different, it seems you want to kind of categorize it as wrong. All right? But we're going to show you the benefits of doing that, of being able to move and reposition on your combinations.
Again, be able to move with your combinations, great and important thing, because a lot of boxers are not going to stand there for you. Most of the time when you box, you maybe try to put like a 4 or 5 piece combo together, and unless you got someone on the ropes, which by the way is another reason why you want to maneuver people to the ropes so you can do something like that, but if you're more in the middle of the ring, they're probably not going to stand there for you. That's what I've seen from my experience of coaching for over 10 years.
So as opposed to throwing a combination from one spot, most guys, we're standing in here, and you'll see when most guys are hitting the bag and they're throwing their combinations, and everything is from right here, okay? And we just get used to throwing that. The more we throw that, the better we get at it. Now, to tell you you're not going to be successful with that, that'd be untruthful, period.
Okay. So something that works to do it the way he says not to do it. But I guess he's saying there's a better way, right? There is the truth.
I mean, because you're going to see people have a lot of success with that, because that's the way it's done. That's the way that it's.
Is that the end of the video? That's the way it's done. On to the next topic. Just kidding, Mr. Cook. Let's proceed.
Generally taught. And for the most part, when you're facing your opponent, they're going to be in the same spot also.
Again, I mean, unless you're, no offense to Mexican boxers, love you guys, and much respect, but unless you're in Mexico, and they're already kind of changing, you know, I saw a lot more variety than I guess what you would expect, but I saw a lot of guys just standing there in the pocket and just staying in one spot. So, but I don't know, man. I don't know where he's in the United States, I think. So there's a lot of variety. Guys don't just stand there. I don't know what type of boxing stuff he's been doing.
The reason why is because what happens in the way boxing is taught is that once
most people teach in boxing defense feet first. I mean, that's what I've noticed. So you're taught to stand there.
I generate motion. My opponent stands still.
I mean, you could say that's something that people do. Is it taught? Hey, guy generates motion, you should stand still. Now, the benefit of not always getting on your bicycle, like I talked about in the defense video, and not always moving when someone starts throwing punches at you, is so that you can also be in a position to counter, right? Because if you look at the greatest counter fighters in the history of boxing, they were able to stand there, stand still, so they could shoot their shot off appropriately at the right time.
That's the way, that's the reason why you hear coaches so often say, be first, be first, be first. Because an overly offensive move usually generates an overly defensive reaction. So you're going to make contact for the most part because your opponent is still going to be there. All right? You have guys that'll actually slip and move their head, and you may not score, but as far as where they are positionally, they're still in the same spot because most often they're not moving their feet.
again, something about the way it's presented. I'd say it's 50-50. A lot of times I'd throw punches at people and they'd jump the hell away from me. And I'd have to go after them with double, triple jabs and try to get them to the rope because they were trying to avoid. Uh, there's this guy, there's a guy named Muhammad Ali. There's a guy named Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, who were big on moving, and a lot of contemporary guys too. So I don't know
All
quite what
right.
he's getting at.
So,
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click like, click subscribe, click that bell for notifications, and share this to someone who you think might benefit. Now, back to the video.
what we're showing now is how to generate the combinations by moving your feet. So that we don't have to go deep into it, if you want to go back and look at the video that we made about the 1-2 and how it is generated by shifting laterally, that'll make a lot more sense to you, and it'll fill in some gaps because we're going to run through that here to show how that movement works.
You got to read the Old Testament before you read the New Testament, I guess.
Okay, so now when we're sitting in here and we're throwing our combinations, one thing you're looking at when you're throwing a 1-2 combination, the first thing you want to establish is the ability to reach and land the jab. All right,
Great advice.
Looking at the reaction from your opponent. So if my opponent is in front of me and I can shift to get me a small angle from here, and I shift into the jab here, it gives me, I have actually changed position slightly.
Obviously, yes.
But it makes a huge difference as far as the positional advantage to my opponent.
And, great point. It's like I did in that fight study on Wednesday with Howard Davis Jr., circling with a jab. Great, classic, excellent boxing that I would argue as well, most people actually naturally do circle with the jab a little bit, at least from my experience. When they're taught to step with the jab, they typically circle with the jab. But if I remember watching that True Stance, whatever boxing video that he first really got blown up with when he was in another MMA gym or this MMA gym, and to be clear, at least he's in a gym coaching boxing. I guess I'm in a house, but most of the time I'm in the gym too when I'm coaching boxing. So kudos to him. But versus some other folks, yeah, stepping off with the jab, it's a move. It's a part of the toolbox, or it's in the toolbox. It's one of the tools in the toolbox. But you got Phillips heads, you got flat heads, you got different types of tools.
So if I can step here and land my jab, and the jab lands, and I'm able to establish that, if my opponent, which most likely they don't, if he does not move his feet, if he catches the jab or he slips his head, but he does not move his feet, he's actually open for the 1-2.
And this is like yes, and no. And no. Why no? Because like I talked about in one of my other videos, a good boxer is going to be able to do some things out of position and still hit you. You can see plenty of guys that a guy steps around with a jab like that and the guy doesn't do some dramatic thing with his feet and then throws a punch and can hit him if the guy's close enough, things like that. So if the jab isn't long range, and of course maybe I'm like super nitpicking the hell out of this, but again, doing my best to help give the nuance.
Okay, so if I can get the jab here, and he's still in the same spot, when I slide over for the 1-2, he's right here.
Yeah, and that's a great move. Great move. 1-2 off to the side. Beautiful. Like you'll have success with that move. Now, like I've talked about before, as a short boxer, I saw one video where he's talking about he's a shorter boxer. He like fought up some weight class or something like that. I don't know, maybe. But as a short boxer, circling with that jab, bad news most of the time. Particularly when you're wanting to attack with like a 1-2, because you're not going to cover the same distance with a small step, and you'll have to lunge in more, get a little bit closer to it, things like that. So generally, it's not going to be a good move, particularly also you 1-2ing off to the side. If the other guy is moving at all, which way he's going to move? Probably he's going to move to his lead side. So he's kind of getting away from you on that 1-2 versus getting it right down the pipe.
Right? So I'm here, and then we come right back to the jab. All right, but now, right? So I'm here, and then we come right back to the jab.
All right. A lot of steps, but I mean, again, we all do funny things in demos, so just having fun with it. Cook, no worries.
Right, but now, what we want to go over today is we want to slip into that 1-2, and I'm going to show you how to generate the positional advantage you need to drop the hook behind that. Because if you got an opponent that stands still, he is very susceptible to catching that hook if you're moving correctly. You're not always going to be able to reach around his hand, and you don't have to. All right, so when we come here, I'm going to slow it down. When we're coming here, we're going to push off this right foot, shift to the side to throw the 1-2. I'm going to show you an additional step to how we transition into the 3. All right, so we're going to shift into the 1-2 from here. Now, as opposed to pulling straight back after the 2, we're going to go into the 1-2 here. 1-2, push off.
So, I'm not going to be my own version of the truth, the light, and the way boxing coach and say like, oh, you're in this stance, man. You're all squared up. Look at this. You're going to get killed. This is, you know, he can just push you over with his pinky right now because you're square. I'm not going to be that guy. But is this, I'm confused. You could build up a steel man for his argument of he's just teaching a way to do a 1-2-3, which this could be a way to do a 1-2-3. I'm not saying it's like completely wouldn't work or whatnot, but should this be the standard way to do a 1-2-3 as opposed to the other way that he says is standard? I don't think so, because you don't need to get square like that. You really don't need to get square like that with your feet. 1-2-3, and again, the benefit of the 1-2-3 as well is that the 1 and the 2 are going to bring everything up front. So therefore, the wraparound of the left hook or lead hook is fine.
This foot here, and you shift in, and there's your hook.
It's a lot of steps for 3 punches.
All right, because you're going to come right past his guard because you're going to create that space simply by sliding over. Your right hand and right foot should line up with your opponent here.
Is that the best stance to have against your opponent? Maybe if you're doing all the, peekaboo style Mike Tyson Hemingway thing, But again, I saw in one of other Marvin's videos, he was like, don't box like that. I don't know.
You throw that, all right? Not the way you're leaning in.
Agreed.
Here. So you're going to be able to turn and throw that right hand here, push off and come right into the hook.
A lot of steps right
here.
there, man.
Turn and throw that right hand here.
He has to do that, like what I've heard some people call an L step, but
push off and come right into the hook here, and you come right back out.
I like the finishing with the jab, so I'm always looking to go for what I agree with, what I have a different opinion on. So ending with the jab, perfect.
Run past that one more time.
Let's see it.
From here, you're going to shift over for the 1-2, push off, boom, come right back into the hook, and you're right here.
So you got to put the 1-2, pause. I mean, I know he's demonstrating it, but how it does play out in actuality is boom, 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 right? Boom, boom, boom. If it's quick, boom, boom, boom. You got that pause versus bam, bam, bam. You got to be able to put them together. It's good to change up times between shots, right? If you're always just like ba, 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 and you go ba, 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 like that can be good. But if that's your default, I mean, I assume he's saying this is the default, honestly. I mean, you could, again, build the steel man if he's like, this is just a way to do it. But he does frame the other way as not the way to do it and not the true, the light and the way to do it.
Okay? Now, another thing that I want to go over is the balance of your punches. Don't allow the movement, when we're moving from our shoulders and shifting too much, don't allow that to throw you off, okay? Because once you allow your hands to lead the movement or your head to lead the movement, it all falls apart, okay? We have to start with our feet.
Yeah. One thing, just like with a jab, for instance, like just talking theoretically about the concept that he just described, if you lead with the hand, it's going to throw you off balance. Well, I find it is relatively important, like with a jab, to oftentimes lead with the arm very slightly. Because if you lead with the foot, it's very visible.
You have to start the movement and start the combination, start everything from your feet. It's almost like those Alaskan sled dogs. If you don't put the alpha in front, the whole thing goes off because he's going to always try to get to the front. The whole team will not pull together if you don't put those dogs in order.
I'll take his word for that. Recently, I've gotten so much awesome comments and amazing support. Really helps with the work that I'm sure some of you guys know goes into growing a channel and putting out this content 3 times a week. So if you don't mind lending your support in any way that you feel is appropriate, I really appreciate it. Let's continue to grow this. Now, back to the video.
It doesn't work, all right? So when we do our movement out of order, it becomes a lot more difficult to be successful with it, all right? So if we understand that your hands will follow your feet will not follow your hands, okay? So if I'm leaning too far here, my feet are
Let me kind of like, again, add my personal opinion of the nuance. The nuance is, of the true boxing way, is to have them coordinate it together so that that foot and that punch are together. If you're going to move with your punches, step with your punches at times, move the foot with the punch. You can move the opposite foot with the opposite punch, but have them with it. It's not led by the feet, it's with it. Because in my opinion, this approach is a little bit of a disconnect and a little bit of a foot first, then punch, whatever. Doesn't really play out like that when you actually go at full speed.
Keep me from falling at some point if I lean too far with that, okay? But if I'm here and I'm moving with my feet first, everything stays in alignment. You can always move and find your offense, find your defense, movement, adjustments. Everything comes so much more fluid.
See, that's one thing I really love about the classic jab.
And first,
is
everything stays in alignment.
Okay,
you can
is to hide the step with the jab. First, so like right from here, you'll see, let's see here. He'll do his step, right? Getting into range and then shooting the jab. Now again, just to steel man it, right? Just to do my best job to be an attorney defending Marvin Cook in the court of boxing. Sometimes it's good to change up the things like that. Say like you step in and you didn't throw a jab and then pop. You just shoot it with the arm like that. But I really like as that default being able to, with that step of that left foot, that hand goes out versus now you've stepped into the range of fire and now you're going to fire as he shifts his weight forward a little bit with the jab, which if I remember correctly in the true boxing stance was not exactly what you needed to do.
You can always move and find your offense, find your defense, movement, adjustments, everything.
But again, I'm being ultra critical or ultra nitpicky.
So much more fluid when you move from your feet first. And you'll find more opportunities when you're on balance.
The most true thing said in this video, I dare say, balance. That's one thing that, in my opinion, a coach who revolutionized boxing to make it more what is modern boxing was Jack Blackburn, the coach for Joe Louis. And every interview I've read with him and whatnot, research I've done about him, and stuff I heard about through 3 degrees, 4 degrees, is he was big on being able to throw punches, missing, and being on balance. And balance is one of the greatest things to have as a fighter. And I remember first couple years I started coaching, a coach gave me that compliment on my guys. All of you guys have great balance. And that was a great compliment that I will forever appreciate from that coach.
So it's not about learning a style and understanding if this happens, then I do this, and if this happens, I do that. Now it comes down to how well you can recall everything in the time you need it, okay? But if you're really looking at maintaining objectives, and your objective is to maintain your balance through this, Now you're going to see what works in the station that you are, in the setting that's happening, and whatever the situation is, you're able to find that. One way that I like to test that is we would do same hand combinations. Okay, so let's say we're throwing with the left hand or your lead hand. I'm not counting out the southpaws. If you lead with your lead hand, let's say you're coming off your jab. A lot of times, the way we throw punches in general is we load up on them. So every time that you throw with your left, you feel that you're only able, because you're rotating in or whatever, you're leaning in, you're only able to come at with your right hand, then you have to come at with your left hand, then your right hand, then your left hand.
I feel like this is about to turn into that video where Michael J. White is talking to Kimbo Slice about how boxers throw punches versus how Michael J. White throws punches. And Kimbo Slice, who's not really a boxer, is receiving the wisdom. Again, kind of ridiculous straw manning a little bit, but he is 100% correct that people tend to go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And as he touches on in a second, that's because everything we do is like right leg, left leg, right leg. Yeah, absolutely. Totally spot on points. But his answer is you step, and that's how you avoid that.
And your right hand and your left hand, because of the way we position our bodies. Okay? Because we're pushing through the punches. We're not aware of how often we do that. All right? And if you were to sit back and be conscious of it, you'd see how often we do that, because that's just the way we move. That's the way we were taught to walk. And we've been practicing that our whole lives. But when we get to the point now where we're learning that every time
you know, if you ask someone like famous, contemporary, more modern, who is famous for doubling up their lead hand, I don't know, maybe Roy Jones Jr., famous for double left hooks, triple left hooks, etc. How many? 6 in a row, 5 in a row, something like that. And he talks about it. Talks about using that shoulder. He doesn't talk about using that step. It's not that you can't step with double, triple hooks and things like that, but you know, I would take Jones's word for it just a little bit more on that one. And again, it's like what you see people do, and also what you see the majority of coaches talk about. The majority of coaches are not wrong. They aren't. I'm sorry. Anyone that kind of frames this whole thing of like, you know, your coach is probably wrong about this, or, you know, everybody's taught this one thing and it's actually wrong. They can sometimes have a point, right? That there might be other ways to do something, but to say it's not the true way is not, I don't know. I can't agree with that.
You throw your jab, or you throw your right hand, or you throw your left hand, everything comes back to the true boxer stance. It gives you more options. So if I'm throwing my jab here and I'm coming back here, if I want to throw my uppercut, it's here. If I want to throw my hooks, it's here. Okay?
So, as opposed to what off of a jab. I'm sorry, Marvin. When you shoot a jab, no matter how you're taught boxing, most people are not taught to turn with a jab. And, you know, there's only some very small, unique situations where that might be the thing to do. But don't act like it. You know, again, building up the straw man. We see this in other videos where you build up a very weak argument purposefully so you can knock it down and be like, man, look how good my point was.
So I'm able to throw.
And by the way, jab, I know it when I see it because I used to do the same thing.
Hook, uppercut, fluidly, because I'm coming straight back. So if I throw the jab hook, I can come right off of, throwing the jab hook, shift down, and come right back out.
I mean, you can do the jab hook without the little step in between, man. It's not the step that made it magic.
The jab hook, shift down.
All right, let's watch it one more time.
I can come right off.
He's here. He talks about it for a second. Let me get up to it. Okay, here it goes. So and by the way, one thing I kind of do with my jab, if I don't watch it, is drop my jab like that before I shoot it. So something to always watch out for, guys. Dropping that jab before you shoot it and pulling it back, right? Easy thing to do. All right, so anyway, so he steps with a jab. And like the jab and the step, you know, he had some arm movement before, but Nice. He's jabbing and stepping same time. Ball of the foot hits first. Loving it. Awesome, in my personal opinion. And then from here, then he's stepping with the left leg over and then does the hook. And the back foot is when that hook is connecting, is swinging around. So just kind of spinning with the hook. Again, he could just right off of this jab connection point, in my professional opinion as a boxing coach, he didn't even land that jab. Look at that. Like his jab didn't even, that's tripping me out. He almost broke his wrist on I guess he just didn't actually hit it. But anyway, right off of that, if you bring the back foot under your butt, now you're just about in range for a hook, a very long hook. You can throw it and you can land it. To Marvin's point, if someone stays there, if they pull back a little bit or their head gets knocked back with the jab, which happens plenty of the time, then you step in a little bit with the hook.
You come right back out.
Taking a quick break in the video to remind you that there's that level 2 option when you go to the join page. And if you don't see it there, because I know some people haven't seen it, I've had a lot of people join, but I've had a lot of people ask about it. I'll send you a link if you put it in the comments below to do level 2, where I will review your sparring, give you feedback, your fights, give you feedback to hopefully help you get to the next level. All right, guys, back to the video.
If I want to throw the jab, hook, uppercut, it's right there. I can come right in, hit the jab, hook, uppercut, boom, come right back out to the jab.
Again, pause in between. Versus I really like if my boxers can even leave their lead arm out as they throw that combination. So the jab is out there. As the jab is still out, it comes back just a little bit enough that they can whip up with the shoulder to create that uppercut and then open up just a tad so they can whip that lead hook. And that's where you get some amazing speed. And if you look at some of the greatest boxers in the history of boxing, that lead arm is left out because they got the rear hand back for almost all the punches to defend if they need it, theoretically. And their head movement, footwork.
All right, without losing balance.
You can throw multiple punches with one arm without the extra little steps in between and not lose balance. You know this. You don't know this. Now you do.
If my opponent was to move and I missed all 3 punches, I'm still in position.
Because of the step? No. Because of just having good balance. Balance is a learned thing in boxing, where you learn to throw punches while being on balance. You can learn to throw punches and be on balance and with rotation or with stepping. And why do I say this? I've done it, and everybody I've ever trained has done it.
There's no over travel. So this is where everyone incorporates the make them miss, make them pay method.
All right, so now he's about to tell us how the make them miss, make them pay method is wrong.
Okay? The reason why that is so effective is because we throw our punches off balance.
So that's why make them miss, make them pay works. Now, I'm going to agree with you, Mr. Marvin. Yes, it works better the worse somebody is as a boxer. Absolutely. I'll tell you a secret, my friend. I know you know this, Marvin, but you guys, most of you know this too. Everything works better, or most everything works better in boxing against somebody who's crappier. Counters typically work better. Your punches typically work better. Your footwork works better, and it works worse against better people.
So when we miss, we have to regain our balance. The time it takes us to regain our balance, that's when your opponent deploys the counter, okay? If you take that out to where you're not trying to regain your balance, it eliminates the opportunity for your opponent to take advantage of the miss, okay? So this is where it is very important and very effective to be able to maintain balance through the combinations.
So did he say, let me just make sure.
To be able to, very important, okay? So this is where it is very advantage of the miss. It eliminates the opportunity for your opponent to take advantage of the miss.
All right, so if we do it the Marvin Cook way, the true way, then we eliminate the opportunity the opponent has to take advantage of the miss. Again, it's overselling it. overselling it. Marvin, you go against somebody that is at your experience level or higher, and they can make you miss and they can still make you pay, whether or not you do the true boxing method or the great lie that everyone else has been taught with boxing.
It eliminates the opportunity for your opponent to take advantage of the miss.
Better said, if you're on balance when you miss punches, it minimizes, not eliminate. Minimizing is different than eliminating. If I'm a doctor and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to minimize that, I don't know, I'm going to minimize your ugly face, then that means I'm going to make it better, but I'm not going to completely get rid of it. But if I say I'm going to eliminate it, that's a lot different, right? I'm going to minimize the cancer in your body. Is different than eliminate. Far different. Life or death magnitudes of difference.
Okay, so this is where it is very important through the combinations, understanding that the footwork is important and it is paramount, that has to be the number one objective.
Now, of course, I'd have to agree with Mr. Marvin big time. Because again, dude, like, Marvin's not dead wrong, but I mean, he has his own opinions about things. That's great. Cool. Again, boxing is an art. But, over probably 80% or 75% of things I probably agree with Marvin on completely. And a lot of the philosophies, I agree with him. They're just like over strongly stated, but maybe the application though of the philosophy is a place that at least I personally disagree with. And at least the way that, not only the way I was taught, which is fine because we can all be taught things which are not true, but the way I've seen it played out, because I've been taught things that they're like, yes, absolutely, to his point, didn't play out the way that they were described to me that they were going to play out. And I don't really see them play out like that. But then there's most of it that does. And then with experience, I've seen the nuance of, hey, like how this thing doesn't play out quite like that or does play out, and when it does and how it does and how it doesn't. All right. So again, doing my best to be the voice of reason with boxing on this boxing internet world that we live in. Anyway, guys, good video by Marvin Cook. And as far as balance, absolutely essential. Footwork, absolutely essential as a good boxer. Not pushing your punches. He said, don't push your punches. 100%, my friend. Yes. Don't always throw punches and stay in one place. Yes, brother. Exactly. People that practice on the bag and they just freaking plant their feet and stand right there. That's no good. And that is why shadow boxing. Yes, yeah. I'm going back to that shadow boxing, guys. That's why shadow boxing is so important, because you can do any move Marvin Cook is talking about, or any move that I talk about, or anybody talks about. And you can do that when you're shadow boxing. But you got a bag, you're limited. The amount of things you're going to do, and limited, and then not able to replicate the experiences, movement, and ways you're going to have to throw your punches sometimes, including the misses and missing and being on balance. You're not going to be able to replicate that very easily by always working on the bag, all right? So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope this maybe reminded you of something, maybe presented something in a different way. Maybe Marvin presented something in a different way that you're like, oh, that makes sense, or maybe I did. Cool. And again, all these videos are done not to down on Marvin Cook. He has an awesome, successful YouTube channel. He's blowing up over the past like 10, 12 years, something like that. And I'm sure he's helped a lot of boxers get better. And I'm just giving my input and my perspective from my philosophy and my lineage of coaching. All right, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you click like, click subscribe, click the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded so you don't miss out on the next one. I do super big deep dives. Next big deep dive comes up Monday. And I really appreciate your support, guys. I really appreciate how you have helped grow this channel. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one.